All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this Alchemi-Culture podcast. I am super pleased to have my very best friend and super excellent colleague, DJ Ankenbrandt, back. We've actually been spending a lot of time together over the last couple of weeks, and we'll go into that here in a second. But in the meantime, Deej, welcome back.
I'm so grateful to be here. It's truly a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, my man.
Sure is. Yeah, as per usual, we've got our scotch in hand.
Indeed.
For those of you listening, we have a wee dram of Ardbeg, Highlight Scotch whiskey, just about every time that we do one of these things. It seems it's kind of become a ritual now.
Indeed. Warms the belly, and it's delicious.
You know, one time, actually, I can't remember. I think maybe I was on the Higher Side Chats or some other podcast being interviewed by somebody else. And one of the comments in the YouTube section, which everybody knows, like if you're a podcaster, don't check the YouTube section, but I did one day, and one of the people on there was like, "Oh, I could tell that he was lying because his face would turn red." So I watched the video, and I was like, "I wonder what the fuck they mean." I was watching the video, and I was actually sipping what looked to be a mug full of like coffee or something. Well, it was actually like 2/3 of the way full of scotch.
Nice.
And so I would end up getting flushed during the time that that was happening. So anyway, I always think about that. It's like, dude, if you only knew.
Get you nice and warm.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, dude, we just got back from Fire to Fire, though, right?
It was incredible. Yeah, we spent a whole 5 days camping in the forest. No cell
More
service.
than that,
I guess it was 6 nights.
Yeah, 6 nights.
Camping in the forest in Taviona, Utah. Phoenix and I hand forged our first knives successfully. We made handles and everything.
Yeah.
Got them complete. We just need to make some sheaths.
Yep.
And without a doubt, we're going to get into hand forging.
Yeah.
This wintertime.
Yeah. I kind of committed to myself. I loved it. So now what's crazy, it was like 96 degrees outside to like 100 degrees. And here we are like 3 days out of the 5 days that we're there forging.
Oh yeah, for like 8 hours
in the sun.
10 hours a day.
Yeah. Luckily the spot where we ended up moving was not.
It was shady.
It was shady and breezy for the first couple hours of the day.
But those little furnaces pump out the heat.
They crank it, man.
Devil's Forge.
Devil's Forge, yeah.
We're gonna get one.
Yeah. Maybe several.
Maybe several.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe we could share some images of our handmade knives in this podcast.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll have to talk to Nori about the editing on that and see how easy it is since we're recording audio instead of video. But yeah, man, that was a fun time. So we spent a lot of time there, and then we learned a bunch of other skills too during the time we were out there. So for those of you who aren't aware of Fire to Fire is a primitive skills gathering, there's quite a few of them. Probably the most notorious one is Rabbit Stick, held in Rexburg, Idaho in September. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome for those of you who are looking to learn new skills and stuff like that. I strongly suggest looking at it. But just like Burning Man has regional burns, it's like Rabbit Stick has regional gatherings as well. Basically, it's almost the same community.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I would say the primitive skills community is a little bit more rustic, like deep woodsy. Maybe like more anarchistic.
I didn't mean to say that Burning Man people are the same community as Fire to Fire people. I meant to say the Rabbit Stick people and like Fire to Fire and and like Winter Count. All of those are basically the same community.
Very similar community. People just kind of do the rounds. They flow with the seasons back and forth. And even some of these people, they do incredible work. They spend 2 to 4 months at a time in the forest, wildcrafting, hunting. They'll take some tracking, and they really work on cultivating primitive skills and living a primitive lifestyle, which to me is essential at this time as the world changes and as we get further and further from nature, and maintaining those skills, preserving them. It's essential for future generations. So
it is.
We're irresponsible if we do not participate.
Yeah,
to some degree.
To some degree, exactly. Yeah. So I thought it was great. It was fantastic for me to see how tight-knit everybody was.
Very family
oriented. Mm-hmm. And, Fire to Fire is perhaps notorious for being like the family-friendly one, even though people take their kids to other ones too. It's usually in the middle of the school year. Mm-hmm. This one's in the middle of the summer. So there's a higher population, I think, per capita of kids. And that was super fun to see how everybody looked out for everybody else's kids, and
very safe place.
Super safe. Yeah. So anyway, that was super fun. And since getting back, we started talking a little bit more about tonic herbs. I mean, we just today placed an order. You yesterday, but me today placed an order of some different polypore mushrooms. And, this is kind of your industry. This is what you do, is work with really high quality mushrooms and tonic herbs. So
absolutely,
maybe we could unpack that and just kind of, how'd you get into it?
Well, in my early 20s, I found myself living in Northern California on a farm where I was learning about herbalism and yoga, like really intimate yoga practice, and learning about cannabis cultivation. But what I loved about it is that they were focused on herbalism first and foremost. Cannabis was just another herb in the garden amongst 50 other herbs.
Yeah.
So I really saw a more holistic approach to working with plants as medicine, and was trained in herbalism at that age. And then as I began to study nutrition, superfoods, it merged into tonic herbs. And it kind of started with moringa. I got really interested in moringa and found myself on a moringa farm, which then led me to connect with Romania Dean Thomas, who was my first tonic herb teacher, and I apprenticed with him ongoing for like about 11 years. And when I realized that China has an ancient herbal tradition that's in some ways focused on tonic herbalism and classical Chinese medicine, I realized it was one of the most intact herbal traditions and lineages that exists on the planet.
Definitely the oldest.
The oldest
that we know of.
That we know of, for sure. And so I became enthralled by it, and I felt this affinity to it, especially because I was into superfoods and nutrition. And wow, there's this whole category of tonic herbs. They're seen as quote unquote superior tonics. Not that they're better than other things. They just have a more comprehensive beneficial effect on the body. They tend to have dual directional function, whereby they nourish multiple organ systems, tonify immunity, enhance cognitive function. They're more diverse in the way that they impact the body, and they can be taken over long periods of time with perpetual cumulative benefit. And we've seen this for over 5,000 to 7,000 years in China. So we have long studies of their use with regular consumption, and that's how they've been deemed very safe for most people. There's some contraindications here and there.
Yeah.
On the whole,
there is with anything.
On the whole, they're more like nutritional supplements and whole foods, yet often they're roots, barks, berries, leaves, and in order to access the beneficial constituents, they need to be extracted with either water or both water and ethanol. And so, you're bypassing the fibrous, stuff that you don't really need, and just
ties up in digestion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I really appreciated that about the Chinese tradition. They started creating powdered extracts. First.
Sun.
Yeah, which I really love, because you can just take half a teaspoon and put it into hot water, and you have an instant tea with all the essence of that plant. It's still intact in a whole plant form. All the information and intelligence is still there. Not necessarily like spagyrics with the plant salts. And yet it's getting closer to, receiving the full essence of the plant in a concentrated form with still an intact intelligence.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the coolest ways too, because realistically, most traditions do not do a dual extract. And maybe you can talk about this. Maybe it, for me, just logically, where dual extracts must have come from is taking herbal or like rice wines and initially doing decoction in those. That's probably where it initially came from. Is like if you boil it in rice wine, you get a better, deeper extraction than if you just do it in water alone.
And I remember Romania talking about these Taoist tonic herbalists of old, 5,000, 7,000 years ago, who they were drinking wine all the time in the legends, and it was tonic herb infused wine. So it is a way that they utilized it. And interestingly enough, you're talking about extraction methods and efficacy, right? And my understanding is in I guess it was the 50s to 70s when the Cultural Revolution happened, when Mao was shifting things, taking the spirit out of classical Chinese medicine and making it more westernized, which is what we see today in traditional acupuncture training. My understanding is that they created all these clinics all throughout China, and they started doing isolates of the different tonic herbs. They're like, oh, well, we'll westernize it. We'll isolate this compound and this compound. And so evidently the villagers and the local people went and checked out the clinic and tried it out and were so unimpressed that they left. And there was all these tons of abandoned clinics all throughout China. And it pushed them to do more intimate research on the most efficacious way to receive the beneficial qualities of these plants. And they found over many years of studying that the water-soluble constituents are most comprehensive for most of the tonic herbs. You can get ethanol-soluble constituents as well, and it's better. However, the water really absorbs the majority of what they have to offer, and that's when the powdered extract process was kind of cultivated and created. They created spray drying equipment and large-scale pressure cookers to cook them down, remove the fiber, spray dry it, get the powders. And that's, so they have 60 years on us in the West with powdered extraction.
Yeah, easily. Well, and then that's where they also started creating like Bao He Wan would be like, the pill, the wan would be like the pill form. They would compress that and roll it up with like a sugar pill or,
so they call them precious pills in Tibet. Precious pills. And I actually saw a beautiful photo of a Nepal apothecary there. They pretty much put Shilajit in everything. In all those precious pills, there's at least a portion of Shilajit.
As a potentiator?
Yeah. Which I really appreciated. And as a binder, because it's kind of You use it for rolling them. But that's how they take those herbs primarily.
Wow.
In Nepal and in Tibet.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, actually, given the cultural history, but that's just really cool to hear. So, I think that it's clever because how many people really, if you give them raw herbs, are going to go home and make their own decoction?
I mean, the really,
avid,
advantageous ones will. They'll get in there and they'll make it for a period of time, and then they'll remove the fiber. They'll evaporate the water down in a pot, and then they'll find, wow, this herbal essence is kind of hardening and caking up and crystallizing. It's not forming a powder like I thought. I've got to grind it down. It's a lot more of a process than I thought. Spray dryers are where it's at. Yeah.
Well, it's virtually impossible to do that without spray dryers, actually. I mean,
and to get any kind of volume.
Yeah. Here in the lab with Spagyria, we can make elixirs easily into a powder because they're bound with potassium salts.
Absolutely.
And so the salts grind down and the sulfur just kind of sticks to it. And so it's easy enough to do that. But in a tradition where that's not the case, where you're just taking water-soluble materials, it first goes to a gum. And then you have to, it first goes to a pitch and then to a gum. If you keep dehydrating it, then you really have to work with it in pretty clever ways in order to get it to dry out.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing.
No, it sucks, actually. I don't like doing it.
My first decocted powdered extract experiment was with Felinas Tremulae. Which is a polypore in Colorado and New Mexico. It grows on the quaking aspen trees. It's related to Felinas igniarius and Felinas lintaeus. These are two specific polypore varieties. They generally are in Korea, and they revere them in Korea because in vitro studies with cancer cells, it has a 98% inhibition rate for a variety of different cancer cells. So it's highly coveted over there, and it's rare. And, in every country, in every part of the world, there'll be similar herbs that have a different geographical region with different soil content and different elevation. And so they fluctuate and vary. And
creates a different terroir almost.
Completely different terroir. And so this Felinas Tremule from the quaking aspen, it's very similar to the lintaeus and igniarius, which is also known as Mesima.
Mesima.
Mesima. It's a very unique tonic herb. Very few people know about it. It's highly antifungal. Has anti-mutagenic properties. It's a cellular protectant. It has many benefits, and it's just not very known about. So I think in time, we should get a Felinas Tremule product.
Totally. Well, I remember when when Nori and I first came to visit you in New Mexico, you actually sent me home with a couple of these.
Oh yeah. And the first time we met, I remember you were like, "Whoa, wow, bro, you've got these. Well, I value them at this."
Yeah.
And you were valuing it at like 4 times what I was valuing it, and you actually taught me about how to value herbs based on the rarity and the difficulty in acquisition. Yeah. And those are not easy to get. Oftentimes, you have to scale the trees to get the big ones up top. They don't grow everywhere. They really grow on the larger aspen. It's a shelf fungus, and they're beautiful. They have this velvety underside, which is amazing, and kind of a caked black top, which is similar to chaga.
Yeah.
And if you're out in the forest hunting, you'll see them. They're up there on the trees.
I hear a lot of people actually, like, they'll go to the Uintas or whatever, and there's tons of Quakies out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, oh, dude, I found chaga. It's like, what? You found a birch tree?
No birch there.
Yeah, no birch there, but there's tons of Quakies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they typically will find it. And it's, when they asked me about that, I was like, yeah, dude, my buddy Deej started extracting these, and it's potent.
It's amazing.
Like, there's no scientific studies that I know of on this particular variety. Right. Most of them are on the Asian varieties because that's the pharmacopoeia that polypores are traditionally used for in medicine.
Absolutely.
So, but it's just like the thing, like, there's a book and a great author whose name escapes me right now, but the name of the book is called Botany in a Day, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. They teach you, if you can identify these types of plants and these types of leaf structures, and you know that it's, say, like in the Asteraceae family or whatever, then you more or less already know the type of medicinal effects that it's going to be able to have.
100%.
And the same thing is true with polypores.
Absolutely. And we also have some other ones here in the United States. For those of you that are on the East Coast, if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, down to Georgia, maybe even Tennessee, up in the Smoky Mountains, where there are locust trees, there's a Felinas ramosis.
Oh.
And the ramosis variety is my favorite. It's the most velvety and the most beautiful. It's quite rare. It's hard to find, but they do come in big shelf-like polypores on the locust trees. So keep an eye out next time you're out in the forest if you're on the East Coast.
Well, and I guess what we should talk about now really fast is how to ethically wild harvest too, since we're telling people, hey, find these things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you want to try and be able to spread the spores out every time
100%.
that you're collecting,
mm-hmm.
and you don't want to over collect. If there's a certain amount on the tree, never take the tree bare.
Definitely not. Definitely never take the tree bare. For myself and my wife Jen, when we're out, we attempt to leave about 80% of what we find. Usually it's abundant enough to where we can get
true
20% of it and feel really good, and it still leaves 80% on the trees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes if you walk around in a short distance, there's a lot more too on other trees. So
it has to be in the right zone, and usually the more mature the trees are, the more, and it also has to be a dead tree often, or almost dead.
Yeah.
So it's a specific environment and habitat. They're there, and it's highly medicinal.
Yeah.
And it's, I would say, rather unresearched here in the United States. We have the Linnaeus and Igniarius research, which we can go off on, but the Ramosis and Tremulae,
it's lacking clinical studies as far as I know.
Clinical studies, and we're some of the few people that know about it and have been gathering it. And we only know about it because we're waltzing through the forest, looking around, and we see this, and we're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And when I found it, it was probably 8 years ago, I bought the Fungal Pharmacopoeia.
I remember that.
And I had to get that book. It was the only book that wrote about Linnaeus, Igniarius, and Tremulae. And there's only like a couple page section on it, but that was the only place we could learn, if there had been studies on it. And there's a few, but it's really minimal.
Yeah. It's nowhere near as conclusive as, it kills 90% of all cancer cells across the board.
Nothing like that. Yeah, if you look it up, you'll see in Korea, they have these museums with it, in these huge glass cases with giant specimen pieces, like 3 foot by 3 foot, huge polypores.
Oh man, that'd be cool. That reminds me kind of stepping into some Chinese herb shops every once in a while, like everything's for sale, right? Everything. You're like, how much is that glass cabinet? $300. It's like, you'll get there's always something that has a price there, but they'll be, these huge polypore mushrooms, oftentimes they're just enormous.
Reishi that are about 2 feet wide in diameter, just huge.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. Mm-hmm. Even I've got some reishi specimens here that I got from Chongchu City.
Nice. That
are pretty damn big, actually. Like, we can't fit them into one of our apothecary jars without breaking them, which I end up doing in order to preserve the quality. But that's another thing, is that they actually preserve pretty damn well.
The polypores preserve better than most tonic herbs, as far as I'm concerned, because just by their nature, they're very woody in nature. So you have to get in there and remove a lot of the fiber. I think it's called lignin. Yeah, lots of lignin, and you have to remove that and isolate the water-soluble essence of that mushroom. You can get, ethanol extracted constituents along with water. There's more water, but the ethanol, it's also essential. If you don't have the ethanol, then you won't have the same triterpene content that you otherwise would.
That's true. Well, and this is something I was talking to Daniel Wiseman about, because we were talking about the best method of extraction for polypores and mushrooms in general. Mm-hmm. And we both landed on the radical vegetable mercury, which is basically ethyl acetate. Mm-hmm. Now, I was playing around with it for a while. I kind of made a video even before my research was finished because I was so pleased with the extraction process. But what ends up happening is that there's some complications that end up happening with the salts. Oh, wow. Like, for instance, if you do an extraction of the ethyl acetate with your mushroom, filter out the mushroom, distill out the ethyl acetate, you're left with all of that fixed sulfur. Right. Well, if you just add ethanol in there, not all of it dissolves, because there's a lot more stuff than what can actually dissolve into ethanol. Mm-hmm. And if you pour water in there, the same thing. Oh, wow. If you do water and ethanol, then yes. But then when you go to add your salts to that product, now you have some interesting reactions happening. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to play around with this a couple of ways. It seems like it's actually best if you add your salts to the ethyl acetate itself, distill out the ethyl acetate thereafter, and then just keep it as an elixir, basically. Wow. Keep it as like an infused salt material, and it'd be even better if we could spray dry that, you know. In time. And the other thing is, once you have all of that material, we could always dehydrate it, and there's a lot of different cool things that could happen. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, I think this is a good time for a break, though. When we come back, let's shift our focus from mushrooms to talking more about some of the other tonic herbs, specifically tonic herbs, because some mushrooms, like reishi, are considered tonic.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few. Reishi, lion's mane. I would say tremella. Yeah. Fuciformis is definitely a tonic. It's tonifying. It's really nutritive and soothing, and I might even use the word healing internally.
Yeah. It helps with skin a lot.
Very.
You turned me on to that.
Yeah, it's a beauty tonic. It's an amazing medicinal mushroom. It's snow fungus in Asia. It's not that commonly known about. It's mostly reishi, lion's mane, chaga, turkey tail.
Yeah, when you hear about it in Chinese medicine, like when they refer to it by its English term, it's almost always called snow fungus. Mm-hmm. They call it that.
Yeah, it's very gelatinous and jelly-like. It's a beautiful mushroom. So I love that. I think it's very tonic in nature. Some of them are more medicinally oriented as well. So yeah, we can chat about the tonic herbs.
That sounds great. Yeah, go ahead and stay tuned. We'll be right back. Are you looking for the highest quality herbal supplements and remedies for your home apothecary? Or maybe you're looking to take your spellcraft, magical workings, or offerings to the next level? Whatever your reasons might be, we have hundreds of herbal spagyric items available, and every purchase supports our work and helps bring spagyria into the light of the modern world. Here at the Phoenix Aurelius Research Academy, we produce dozens and dozens of items of spagyric pharmacopoeia each year, even though we only need a few samples for our research purposes. So the remaining quantities are available to the public in our online spagyric apothecary. Only the highest quality natural, organic, biodynamic, and ethically wildcrafted materials go into our products, and every purchase you make helps fund our research. As an Alchemi-Culture podcast listener, you can get your hands on our professionally crafted small batch spagyric products for 15% off using coupon code LISTEN15. So go ahead and browse our enormous selection of products and get yourself something new, or pick up one of your favorite products today. Visit phoenixaurelius.org/apothecary and enter coupon code LISTEN15 to take 15% off your entire order. And thanks in advance for supporting our research. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this Alchemi-Culture podcast. I am super pleased to have my very best friend and super excellent colleague, DJ Ankenbrandt, back. We've actually been spending a lot of time together over the last couple of weeks, and we'll go into that here in a second. But in the meantime, Deej, welcome back.
I'm so grateful to be here. It's truly a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, my man.
Sure is. Yeah, as per usual, we've got our scotch in hand.
Indeed.
For those of you listening, we have a wee dram of Ardbeg Highlight Scotch whiskey. Just about every time that we do one of these things, it seems it's kind of become a ritual now.
Indeed. Warms the belly, and it's delicious.
One time, actually, I can't remember. I think maybe I was on the Higher Side Chats or some other podcast being interviewed by somebody else. And one of the comments in the YouTube section, which everybody knows, like if you're a podcaster, don't check the YouTube section. But I did one day. And one of the people on there was like, oh, I could tell that he was lying because his face would turn red. So I watched the video and I was like, I wonder what the fuck they mean. I was watching the video and I was actually sipping what looked to be a mug full of like coffee or something. Well, it was actually like 2/3 of the way full of scotch.
Nice.
And so I would end up getting flushed during the time that that was happening. So anyway, I always think about that. It's like, dude, if you only knew.
Get you nice and warm.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, dude, we just got back from fire to fire, though, right?
It was incredible. Yeah, we spent a whole 5 days camping in the forest. No cell
More
service.
than that,
I guess it was 6 nights.
Yeah, 6 nights.
Camping in the forest in Taviona, Utah. Phoenix and I hand forged our first knives successfully. We made handles and everything.
Yeah.
Got them complete. We just need to make some sheaths.
Yep.
And without a doubt, we're going to get into hand forging.
Yeah.
This wintertime.
Yeah. I kind of committed to myself. I loved it. So now what's crazy, it was like 96 degrees outside to like 100 degrees. And here we are like 3 days out of the 5 days that we're there forging.
Oh yeah, for like 8 hours
in the sun,
10 hours a day.
Yeah. Luckily, the spot where we ended up moving was not.
It was shady.
It was shady and breezy for the first couple hours of the day.
But those little furnaces pump out the heat.
They crank it, man.
Devil's Forge.
Devil's Forge, yeah.
We're gonna get one.
Yeah, maybe several.
Maybe several.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe we could share some images of our handmade knives in this podcast.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll have to talk to Nori about the editing on that and see how easy it is since we're recording audio instead of video. But yeah, man, that was a fun time. So we spent a lot of time there, and then we learned a bunch of other skills too during the time we were out there. So for those of you who aren't aware, Fire to Fire is a primitive skills gathering. There's quite a few of them. Probably the most notorious one is Rabbit Stick, held in Rexburg, Idaho in September. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome for those of you who are looking to learn new skills and stuff like that. I strongly suggest looking at it. But just like Burning Man has regional burns, it's like Rabbit Stick has regional gatherings as well. Basically, it's almost the same community.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I would say the primitive skills community is a little bit more rustic, like deep woodsy. Maybe like more anarchistic.
I didn't mean to say that Burning Man people are the same community as Fire to Fire people. I meant to say the Rabbit Stick people and like Fire to Fire and and like Winter Count. All of those are basically the same community.
Very similar community. People just kind of do the rounds. They flow with the seasons back and forth. And even some of these people, they do incredible work. They spend 2 to 4 months at a time in the forest, wildcrafting, hunting. They'll take some tracking, and they really work on cultivating primitive skills and living a primitive lifestyle, which to me is essential at this time as the world changes and as we get further and further from nature, and maintaining those skills, preserving them. It's essential for future generations. So
it is.
We're irresponsible if we do not participate.
Yeah,
to some degree.
To some degree, exactly. Yeah. So I thought it was great. It was fantastic for me to see how tight knit everybody was.
Very family
oriented. Mm-hmm. And, Fire to Fire is perhaps notorious for being like the family friendly one, even though people take their kids to other ones too. It's usually in the middle of the school year. Mm-hmm. This one's in the middle of the summer. So there's a higher population, I think, per capita of kids. And that was super fun to see how everybody looked out for everybody else's kids, and
very safe place.
Super safe. Yeah. So anyway, that was super fun. And, since getting back, we started talking a little bit more about tonic herbs. I mean, we just today placed an order, you yesterday, but me today, placed an order of some different polypore mushrooms. And, this is kind of your industry. This is what you do, is work with really high quality mushrooms and tonic herbs. Mm-hmm. So
absolutely,
maybe we could unpack that and just kind of, how'd you get into it?
Well, in my early 20s, I found myself living in Northern California on a farm where I was learning about herbalism and yoga, like really intimate yoga practice, and learning about cannabis cultivation. And But what I loved about it is that they were focused on herbalism first and foremost. Cannabis was just another herb in the garden amongst 50 other herbs.
Yeah.
So I really saw a more holistic approach to working with plants as medicine, and was trained in herbalism at that age. And then as I began to study nutrition, superfoods, it merged into tonic herbs. And it kind of started with moringa. I got really interested in moringa and found myself on a moringa farm, which then led me to connect with Romania Dean Thomas, who was my first tonic herb teacher, and I apprenticed with him ongoing for like about 11 years. And when I realized that China has an ancient herbal tradition that's in some ways focused on tonic herbalism and classical Chinese medicine, I realized it was one of the most intact herbal traditions and lineages that exists on the planet.
Definitely the oldest.
The oldest
that we know of.
That we know of, for sure. And so I became enthralled by it, and I felt this affinity to it, especially because I was into superfoods and nutrition. And wow, there's this whole category of tonic herbs. They're seen as quote unquote superior tonics. Not that they're better than other things. They just have a more comprehensive beneficial effect on the body. They tend to have dual directional function, whereby they nourish multiple organ systems, tonify immunity, enhance cognitive function. They're more diverse in the way that they impact the body, and they can be taken over long periods of time with perpetual cumulative benefit. And we've seen this for over 5,000 to 7,000 years in China. So we have long studies of their use with regular consumption, and that's how they've been deemed very safe for most people. There's some contraindications here and there. On the whole,
there is with anything.
On the whole, they are more like nutritional supplements and whole foods, yet often they're roots, barks, berries, leaves, and in order to access the beneficial constituents, they need to be extracted with either water or both water and ethanol. And so, you're bypassing the fibrous, stuff that you don't really need, and just
ties up in digestion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I really appreciated that about the Chinese tradition. They started creating powdered extracts first. Which I really love, because you can just take half a teaspoon and put it into hot water, and you have an instant tea with the all the essence of that plant. It's still intact in a whole plant form. All the information and intelligence is still there. Not necessarily like spagyrics with the plant salts. And yet it's getting closer to receiving the full essence of the plant in a concentrated form with still an intact intelligence.
Well, I think it's one of the coolest ways too, because realistically, most traditions do not do a dual extract. And maybe you can talk about this. Maybe it, for me, just logically, where dual extracts must have come from is taking herbal or like rice wines and initially doing decoction in those. That's probably where it initially came from, is like if you boil it in rice wine, you get a better, deeper extraction than if you just do it in water alone.
And I remember Romania talking about these Taoist tonic herbalists of old, 5,000, 7,000 years ago, who they were drinking wine all the time in the legends, and it was tonic herb infused wine. So it is a way that they utilized it. And interestingly enough, you're talking about extraction methods and efficacy, right? And my understanding is in I guess it was the 50s to 70s, when the Cultural Revolution happened, when Mao was shifting things, taking the spirit out of classical Chinese medicine and making it more westernized, which is what we see today in traditional acupuncture training. My understanding is that they created all these clinics all throughout China. And they started doing isolates of the different tonic herbs. They're like, oh, well, we'll westernize it. We'll isolate this compound and this compound. And so evidently the villagers and the local people went and checked out the clinic and tried it out, and were so unimpressed that they left. And there was all these tons of abandoned clinics all throughout China. And it pushed them to do more intimate research on the most efficacious way to receive the beneficial qualities of these plants. And they found over many years of studying that the water-soluble constituents are most comprehensive for most of the tonic herbs. You can get ethanol-soluble constituents as well, and it's better. However, the water really absorbs the majority of what they have to offer, and that's when the powdered extract process was kind of cultivated and created. They created spray drying equipment and large scale pressure cookers to cook them down, remove the fiber, spray dry it, and get the powders. And that's, so they have 60 years on us in the West with powdered extraction.
Yeah, easily. Well, and then that's where they also started creating like bao hewan would be like, the pill, the wan would be like the pill form. They would compress that and roll it up with like a sugar pill or, something
they call them precious pills in Tibet. Precious pills. And I actually saw a beautiful photo of a Nepal apothecary there. They pretty much put shilajit in everything. And all those precious pills, there's at least a portion of shilajit.
As a potentiator?
Yeah. Which I really appreciated. And as a binder, because it's kind of use it for rolling them. But that's how they take those herbs primarily.
Wow.
In Nepal and in Tibet.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, actually, given the cultural history, but that's just really cool to hear. Mm-hmm. So, I think that it's clever, because how many people really, if you give them raw herbs, are going to go home and make their own decoction?
I mean, the really,
avid,
advantageous ones will. They'll get in there and they'll make it for a period of time, and then they'll remove the fiber. They'll evaporate the water down in a pot, and then they'll find, wow, this herbal essence is kind of hardening and caking up and crystallizing. It's not forming a powder like I thought. I've got to grind it down. It's a lot more of a process than I thought. Spray dryers are where it's at. Yeah.
Well, it's virtually impossible to do that without spray dryers, actually. I mean,
and to get any kind of volume.
Yeah. Here in the lab with Spagyria, we can make elixirs easily into a powder because they're bound with potassium salts.
Absolutely.
And so the salts grind down and the sulfur just kind of sticks to it. And so it's easy enough to do that. But in a tradition where that's not the case, where you're just taking water soluble materials, it first goes to a gum. And then you have to, it first goes to a pitch and then to a gum. If you keep dehydrating it, then you really have to work with it in pretty clever ways in order to get it to dry out.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing.
No, it sucks, actually. I don't like doing it.
My first decocted powdered extract experiment was with Felinas Tremulae. Which is a polypore in Colorado and New Mexico. It grows on the quaking aspen trees. It's related to Felinas igniarius and Felinas lintaeus. These are two specific polypore varieties. They generally are in Korea, and they revere them in Korea because in vitro studies with cancer cells, it has a 98% inhibition rate for a variety of different cancer cells. So it's highly coveted over there, and it's rare. And, in every country, in every part of the world, there'll be similar herbs that have a different geographical region with different soil content and different elevation. And so they fluctuate and vary. And
creates a different terroir almost.
Completely different terroir. And so this Felinas Tremulae from the quaking aspen, it's very similar to the lintaeus and igniarius, which is also known as Mesima.
Mesima.
Mesima. It's a very unique tonic herb. Very few people know about it. It's highly antifungal. Has anti-mutagenic properties. It's a cellular protectant. It has many benefits, and it's just not very known about. So I think in time, we should get a Felinas Tremulae product.
Totally. Well, I remember when when Nori and I first came to visit you in New Mexico, you actually sent me home with a couple of these.
Oh yeah. And the first time we met, I remember you were like, "Whoa, wow, bro, you've got these. Well, I value them at this." Yeah. And you were valuing it at like 4 times what I was valuing it, and you actually taught me about how to value herbs based on the rarity and the difficulty in acquisition. Yeah. And those are not easy to get. Oftentimes, you have to scale the trees to get the big ones up top. They don't grow everywhere. They really grow on the larger aspen. It's a shelf fungus, and they're beautiful. They have this velvety underside, which is amazing, and kind of a caked black top, which is similar to chaga. Yeah. And if you're out in the forest hunting, you'll see them. They're up there on the trees.
I hear a lot of people actually, like, they'll go to the Uintas or whatever, and there's tons of quakies out there. And they'll be like, "Oh, dude, I found chaga." It's like, what? You found a birch tree?
No birch there.
Yeah, no birch there, but there's tons of quakies. And that's where they typically will find it. And it's, when they asked me about that, I was like, yeah, dude, my buddy Deej started extracting these and it's potent.
It's amazing.
Like there's no scientific studies that I know of on this particular variety. Right. Most of them are on the Asian varieties because that's the pharmacopoeia that polypores are traditionally used for in medicine.
Absolutely.
So, but it's just like the thing, like there's a book and a great author whose name escapes me right now, but the name of the book is called Botany in a Day, right? They teach you, if you can identify these types of plants and these types of leaf structures, and you know that it's, say, like in the Asteraceae family or whatever, then you more or less already know the type of medicinal effects that it's going to be able to have.
100%.
And the same thing is true with polypores.
Absolutely. And we also have some other ones here in the United States. For those of you that are on the East Coast, if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, down to Georgia, maybe even Tennessee, up in the Smoky Mountains, where there are locust trees, there's a Felinas ramosis.
Oh.
And the ramosis variety is my favorite. It's the most velvety and the most beautiful. It's quite rare. It's hard to find, but they do come in big shelf-like polypores on the locust trees. So keep an eye out next time you're out in the forest if you're on the East Coast.
Well, and I guess what we should talk about now really fast is how to ethically wild harvest too, since we're telling people, hey, find these things.
Oh, yeah.
Like you want to try and be able to spread the spores out every time
100%.
that you're collecting, and you don't want to over collect. If there's a certain amount on the tree, never take the tree bare.
Definitely not. Definitely never take the tree bare. For myself and my wife Jen, when we're out, we attempt to leave about 80% of what we find. Usually it's abundant enough to where we can get
true
20% of it and feel really good, and it still leaves 80% on the trees.
Yeah. And oftentimes if you walk around in a short distance, there's a lot more too on other trees. So
it has to be in the right zone, and usually the more mature the trees are, the more, and it also has to be a dead tree often, or almost dead. Yeah. So it's a specific environment and habitat. They're there, and it's highly medicinal. Yeah. And it's, I would say, rather unresearched here in the United States. We have the Linnaeus and Igniarius research, which we can go off on, but the Ramosis and Tremulae,
it's lacking clinical studies as far as I know.
Clinical studies, and we're some of the few people that know about it and have been gathering it. And we only know about it because we're waltzing through the forest, looking around, and we see this, and we're like, what is this? Yeah. And when I found it, it was probably 8 years ago, I bought the Fungal Pharmacopoeia.
I remember that.
And I had to get that book. It was the only book that wrote about Linnaeus, Igniarius, and Tremulae. And there's only like a couple page section on it, but that was the only place we could learn, if there had been studies on it. And there's a few, but it's really minimal. Yeah, yeah.
It's nowhere near as conclusive as, it kills 90% of all cancer cells across the board.
Nothing like that. Yeah, if you look it up, you'll see in Korea, they have these museums with it, and these huge glass cases with giant specimen pieces, like 3 foot by 3 foot, huge polypores.
Oh man, that'd be cool. That reminds me kind of stepping into some Chinese herb shops every once in a while, like everything's for sale, right? Everything. You're like, how much is that glass cabinet? $300. It's like, you'll get there's always something that has a price there, but they'll be, these huge polypore mushrooms, oftentimes they're just enormous.
Reishi that are about 2 feet wide in diameter, just huge.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. Mm-hmm. Even I've got some reishi specimens here that I got from Chongchu City. Nice. That are pretty damn big, actually. Like, we can't fit them into one of our apothecary jars without breaking them, which I end up doing in order to preserve the quality. But that's another thing, is that they actually preserve pretty damn well.
The polypores preserve better than most tonic herbs, as far as I'm concerned, because just by their nature, they're very woody in nature. So you have to get in there and remove a lot of the fiber. I think it's called lignin. Yeah. Yeah, lots of lignin, and you have to remove that and isolate the water-soluble essence of that mushroom. You can get, ethanol extracted constituents along with water. There's more water, but the ethanol, it's also essential. If you don't have the ethanol, then you won't have the same triterpene content that you otherwise would.
That's true. Well, and this is something I was talking to Daniel Wiseman about, because we were talking about the best method of extraction for polypores and mushrooms in general. Mm-hmm. And we both landed on the radical vegetable mercury, which is basically ethyl acetate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was playing around with it for a while. I kind of made a video even before my research was finished because I was so pleased with the extraction process. But what ends up happening is that there's some complications that end up happening with the salts.
Oh, wow.
Like, for instance, if you do an extraction of the ethyl acetate with your mushroom, filter out the mushroom, distill out the ethyl acetate, you're left with all of that fixed sulfur.
Right.
Well, if you just add ethanol in there, not all of it dissolves. Because there's a lot more stuff than what can actually dissolve into ethanol. Mm-hmm. And if you pour water in there, the same thing. Oh, wow. If you do water and ethanol, then yes. But then when you go to add your salts to that product, now you have some interesting reactions happening. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to play around with this a couple of ways. It seems like it's actually best if you add your salts to the ethyl acetate itself, distill out the ethyl acetate thereafter, and then just keep it as an elixir, basically. Wow. Keep it as like an infused salt material, and it'd be even better if we could spray dry that. In time. And the other thing is, once you have all of that material, we could always dehydrate it, and there's a lot of different cool things that could happen. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, I think this is a good time for a break, though. When we come back, let's shift our focus from mushrooms to talking more about some of the other tonic herbs, specifically tonic herbs, because some mushrooms, like reishi, are considered tonic.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few. Reishi, lion's mane. I would say tremella.
Yeah.
Fuciformis is definitely a tonic. It's tonifying. It's really nutritive and soothing, and I might even use the word healing internally.
Yeah. It helps with skin a lot.
Very.
You turned me on to that.
Yeah, it's a beauty tonic. It's an amazing medicinal mushroom. It's snow fungus in Asia. It's not that commonly known about. It's mostly reishi, lion's mane, chaga, turkey tail.
Yeah, when you hear about it in Chinese medicine, like when they refer to it by its English term, it's almost always called snow fungus. Mm-hmm. They call it that.
Yeah, it's very gelatinous and jelly-like. It's a beautiful mushroom. So I love that. I think it's very tonic in nature. Some of them are more medicinally oriented as well. So yeah, we can chat about the tonic herbs.
That sounds great. Yeah, go ahead and stay tuned. We'll be right back. Yeah, it is a very significant thing for longevity. In fact, I guess within TCM, one of the main things that they say is that you're born with a prenatal gene. All right. Gene is separated into multiple different components, but prenatal is one of the biggest ones, which is what did you inherit from your parents, basically. Yeah. No matter what it is that your starting material is to work with, like that's the fundage that you have to expend throughout life. Mm-hmm. And taking tonic herbs in a lot of ways is like replenishing the bank when you have to spend money.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that one's really important. So are you ready to talk about some of these ones? Because I asked you about it before. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So honestly, some of my favorite yin tonics are Hoshawu, Rehmannia, Eucomia, Morinda, and Schizandra. Those are the 5 main ones.
What about Tianmendong?
I love Tianmendong. Red asparagus
root. Red asparagus root.
Tianmendong. It's a kidney yin tonic. It's also a lung yin tonic. It's very beneficial for people who have dry constitutions. It's moisturizing, it's nutritive, it nourishes the kidneys, and also it's seen as a Shen tonic. It's a supreme Shen tonic in the Chinese tradition, specifically red asparagus.
It's also tonic in Ayurveda too, right? They call it Shatavari.
Shatavari, yeah. Shatavari.
Shatavari.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shatavari. And actually it's said that if you drink red asparagus for a whole month, you'll begin to have dreams of flying, and it will unbound you from the physical plane and help you be more connected to the etheric and energetic planes of existence. And it's used as a spiritual cultivation tool in classical Chinese medicine.
If I don't remember, I want you to remind me that we need to come back to this flying thing, because I just had kind of a download about, Ron Teagarden's whole story, his whole story with, what was his name? Sanjin Park.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. So, Ron is probably the first Western man in I would say, the United States who began talking about tonic herbs in any capacity. There may have been a few obscure herbalists, but Ron Teagarden was the first man who purportedly received the transmission and downloads from true classical Chinese herbalists within the Gate of Life tradition. That's their main thing. And Sanjin Park, it's a very unique story. Sanjin Park claims to have been trained by a 400-year-old Taoist tonic herbalist and martial artist who would descend from the mountains, teach him Qigong, teach him herbal practices, and then ascend back into the mountains. And actually, Ron purportedly questioned him and was like, "Is that guy really flying? Are you serious?" And Sanjin Park got super defiant and kind of pissed and was like, "Yes, I have seen him fly. He flies. They fly from mountaintop to mountaintop." And so I love those legends of, extra sensory, extra ordinary capabilities. And the stories, the legends are that these Taoist martial artists cultivated the capacity to shapeshift. And their favorite form was that of dragons. And they would shapeshift into dragons and travel through wormholes to other dimensions and receive information and bring it back.
Yeah.
And through the use of reishi mushroom and red asparagus, those two herbs primarily, if you look at the history.
Wow. That's really cool. Now that, two things there actually kind of strike me. One is that taking tianmendong, or red asparagus root, every day for a month, you'll have dreams of flying.
Mm-hmm. It's common.
This to me indicates that the astral body is developing a certain buoyancy during that time. It also makes me wonder, just to play devil's advocate, because a lot of people call bullshit flag on, Ron Teagarden's whole story.
As they should.
I mean, there's no evidence of it.
No.
It's just this guy's story.
A story.
I don't even know anybody who actually knows Sanjin Park.
Me either.
Yeah. So it could be entirely.
Only Ron and his students.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of sequestered.
It's very sequestered. With that being said, though, let's just say that story might be real. And Sanjin Park really did encounter these Taoist immortals. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's possible maybe that they are projecting their astral body, and that's why they have the illusion of flying and other things?
It would make sense to me. It would make more sense than actual physical shape-shifting.
It makes more sense to me too.
It would be more etheric and energetic in nature.
Yeah. Because, you should be able to, if you have mastered, in theory, of course. I'm not at this level, so I can't say, oh, yes, I've done this. But to be able to project one's astral body with such an intensity or amplification
focus,
that it's almost concrete, for some time. It might take a lot of determination or focus, but...
there's stories, the legends are that they would travel through wormholes to other dimensions in the form of a dragon, and they would receive information and transmissions from other worlds and bring it back to the physical plane, which is actually quite shamanic.
Yeah, that is shamanic.
It's completely shamanic, and they have a serious shamanic tradition in China. I believe the shaman woman is named Wu, W-U, and she's this ancient 5,000 to 7,000 year old deity.
Wow.
And she has this celestial palace with peaches.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Peach trees.
And peaches were considered the fruit of the Taoist immortals, actually. Mm-hmm. They would be seen as drinking this peach tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually, I can't remember if this was in the Alchemy journal that was put out by Paul Hardiker years ago, but he had a West meets East kind of episode where there were a lot of articles in there about Ayurveda and TCM, and even going back way beyond that to Indian form of Rasa Shastra of alchemy, and going back to the Taoist actual practices that led to, modern circulation of the light practices,
right,
and more spiritual alchemy within the Taoist tradition.
Microcosmic orbit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
So I can't remember what the name of the substance was, but it was some sort of a sulfide that was being produced that they kind of had encoded as like peach tea or peach nectar or something like that in these old practices. But allegedly, according to these articles, what they were really talking about was an actual physical substance that helped to destroy disease and increase Jing to the point where they could live very extended periods of time.
I guess through specific breathing practices and being in nature, drinking clean water. And my understanding is that they ate tonic herbs as food. Schizandra berries, gotu kola, hosho wu, Siberian ginseng was maybe part of it.
Yeah.
There's a few others, but it prolonged life for the attainment of wisdom.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, because my whole life I grew up in a very Christian family, and that family is quite dedicated to serving humanity. So I saw that at a young age. But what I also saw is that if you're eating poison food and drinking poison water, unknowingly, it will detract from your ability to contribute to the collective.
Very significantly.
Very significantly. And so I felt really inspired by classical Chinese medicine and the tonic herbal tradition, specifically Taoist tonic herbalism, because from my understanding, it was focused on prolonging life for the attainment of wisdom so you could more effectively contribute to your community and the world at large and make a positive impact for future generations. Yeah. And to me, that's deeply resonant.
Yeah. Well, especially just going back to what you were saying right before, talking about kind of what has impacted you, being able to make a huge impact and having good health and vitality to be able to make a better impact.
Yeah. It impacts your capacity to be present.
Yeah.
And engage with people.
Totally does.
If you're low energy, if you're depleted, your capacity is limited. If you're vibrant and vital and taking steps to nourish your Jing and Qi and Shen with consistency every day, your capacity will be enhanced.
Naturally.
Well,
this leads me to think about eating Schizandra as a food.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't find... Now, your Schizandra dual extract is actually pretty rad. I think it's a dual extract.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. That one's rad. I've got it upstairs.
Yeah. It's potent.
It's not at all like the full berry.
The berry is quite intense.
It is quite intense, but it's cool because it has all 5 flavors. Mm-hmm. It's considered to be a 3-treasure tonic as a result. Mm-hmm. There's not one system of the body that takes more medicine from it or more adaptogenic function than another.
Yeah. It's
very balanced.
Very few 3 treasures tonics.
Yeah.
There's only, honestly, less than 5 that I know of. Reishi is one.
Yes.
Schizandra. Gynostemma.
Yes.
Or Jiaogulan.
Yeah.
And true American ginseng.
Yes.
That's aged 7 to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and when we say age, we don't mean that you harvest it and age it. It grows in the ground for that long.
Yeah. The belief is that as it grows, it becomes more evolved.
Wiser.
Cultivated. It's wiser. If you harvest it at 2 years, it's more like a teenager.
Yeah.
It's kind of shifty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll blast your energy. It'll make you feel super pumped up for a moment, but it may not have the full balance.
Yeah.
Of efficacy.
Yeah.
And true aged ginseng is seen as being highly nutritive, energizing, resilient, enhancing, and it'll give you the vitality to last.
Yeah. And is there another one that you were thinking of too? Because you said 4 or 5. I know those 4. Possibly Polyrachis.
Yeah. Polyrachis is in there.
Yeah.
It's a newer one.
Well, what I understand that there used to be a saying, this was, X amount 1,000 years ago, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, I'm not sure, but somewhere in that window, where they would say ginseng is the king of herbs, but Polyrachis is the herb of kings.
Oh, yeah.
Because it increases your vitality so much.
It's a potent herb.
only to find out these days that, obviously ants have a ton of strength. And so through doctrine of signatures, you're like, oh, I'm taking on, all this strength, but then it's super high in zinc.
Immense amounts.
And they're finding that it helps with all sorts of DNA repair because of what are called SM proteins. Yeah. And these SM proteins are, zinc proteins within DNA that are necessary for the replication of tons of different functions of the body, actually. So that one seems to be really potent to me. The most bioavailable form of zinc that I am aware of out of anything that exists today.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I think that all 5 of those herbs are awesome. There are some contraindications, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're running really hot.
Yes.
You might take care.
Yeah. American ginseng might be okay for that, though.
For sure.
If you're running hot, because it's a cooling herb, right?
Yeah, that's why it's revered.
Yeah.
That's why Daniel Boone filled massive ships full. So the Boston Tea Party, if the Boston Tea Party had happened a day, I guess it was, they had the tea. They had already made the trade. There was the tea for the ginseng. If it happened a day prior, they would have been throwing ginseng, American ginseng, off the ships and bailing it into the water.
Oh, man.
But instead, they had already made the trade, so they were bailing tea.
Yeah.
They were trading Camellia sinensis for American ginseng.
Yep, that's cool.
In the U.S. And purportedly, Daniel Boone was such a lush that he filled his ships so full of ginseng that they sank all the fucking time.
That's hilarious.
He lost tons of ginseng. He wasted tons of ginseng.
Yeah.
Because he was overzealous.
Yeah. Man, you'd think you would learn after the first shipful.
Right?
I would. Yeah. Tea, they must have been selling it actually at a really low rate, undervaluing it because it was at one time so plentiful along the eastern seaboard.
Yeah, they did not understand the value. In Chinese culture, American ginseng is superior to all forms of ginseng.
That's true.
Because it's applicable to both men and women. It's cooling.
Yeah, it's cooling. That's a big one too.
It's very tonifying.
Yeah.
It's energy enhancing, adaptability supportive.
And it still works on heart and lung meridian.
Yep. But,
Yeah, that's the thing. Rinshun or standard white ginseng, which red ginseng is of that very same species, actually.
Just a little bit more heating.
It's more heating, yeah. But it's the same species. It just grows in a different area, a different locale. It grows in Korea mostly.
Different terroir.
Yeah. And it's hot. I almost gave myself a heart attack in January of 2020 doing that.
Really?
So I don't know why. I'm assuming I didn't have a good diagnosis at that time. Jen wasn't around. I didn't have a good diagnosis. I'd go to some yahoos around here. I actually went to this guy named Master Lou.
Take ginseng. It will help you.
He almost killed me, this guy. But, I was sweating under the arms and my feet were constantly sweating and they were cold and clammy and my hands were cold and clammy too. Sounded like classic yang deficiency, actually. But I couldn't get a diagnosis. I went to an acupuncturist. He messed me up. His name, Master Lou. Yeah, Master Lou, my ass.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. He didn't do anything good for me.
Sorry, Master Lou.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're listening, Master Lou, your Ogden facility smelled like meth. It's true, man. It was bad.
You're cooking that shit down there.
He's like, oh, this good medicine.
It's good. Get you going.
Oh, we might have some haters every time I do that voice, but I'm not going to stop just because you hate me. Just switch channels. Anyway, they almost messed me up. So I ended up resorting to trying to fish as much information out of Jen as I could. And she was like, don't do anything until you get a diagnosis. Well, I did anything, even though I didn't have a diagnosis.
I'll go for it.
I have tons of herbs here, as you know. I have tons of them. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to put together a mix. And I did have American ginseng Chlysis, but as you know, we made that together.
Yeah.
Dude.
That was amazing.
20 to 40-year-old ginseng root Chlysis. It's probably the most unique item. Dude, we did an essential oil distillation on ginseng.
Who has done that? Who has done that?
Fee.
Only Fee. Only Fee.
Yeah, seriously, dude.
Seriously, no one else has.
And I've
never seen it.
Dude, we had several kilos of that, it seems. We had to do it in the 20,000 milliliter flask.
It was a big production.
It was a huge production. It took
Portland.
In Portland, dude. Yeah. It took a long time. And when I distilled it out, we only got a few drops of that essential oil. But, being able to make that full Chlysis, basically, and there are multiple different definitions, even within Manfred Junius's Spagyrics book about what a Chlysis is and different ways of making it. But the same way that the Angelica root Chlysis was made was the way that I had produced this.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And so I had that, but it's super rare, and I have very limited quantity of it available,
oh, yeah.
And it's way expensive on my website, much better used for that to help support my research than for me to use it. And I had an elixir of American ginseng, but the initial formula called for ginseng. Well, I didn't have standard ginseng, but I was looking at all of the sources. Red ginseng's the exact same thing. There's no differentiation of name, still Rinshun. So, so I end up using it. Messed me up, dude. It gave me a full-on heart attack symptoms within 10 minutes of using it. It was the worst symptoms of my life: racing heart, cardiac arrhythmia, sweating profusely from all of the pores in my body.
Through a spagyric?
Through a spagyric. 3 drops of a spagyric that I had made with Rinshun in it, like Korean red ginseng in it. I still have it over there on the shelves, actually.
Jen was right. She's like, you fuck everyone up.
Yeah.
No, don't do.
She's like, Sensei, you could kill yourself. And it's so true, because
you kill other people.
Yeah, she's like, your spagyrics are so potent. She'd always tell me, your spagyrics are so potent, Sensei. So I made this, though. I took 3 drops of it, and I was dying. So I ended up calling her, and I was like, Jen, I think I'm having a heart attack. I took red ginseng. And after receiving a tongue lashing, she's like, so stupid. It's so hot. You're going to kill yourself, Sensei. Yeah, guai lo, stupid. So finally I was like, okay, well, that's not cool. What do I do about it? And she's like, you need lancets, and you need to bleed all 10 of the fingertips and the apex of your ears, of both ears, and do it immediately. And repeat as many times as you need to until that pressure goes down. Wow. So I didn't have any lancets. I couldn't go anywhere, and I was actually afraid to be unassisted and alone, so Nori couldn't go somewhere and go and get it. Dude, my resting heart rate was 220 beats per minute, dude.
That's fucking insane.
It was crazy. So here I am, bleeding with a huge safety pin that I sterilize in alcohol, every single one of my fingertips. And by the time I got all 10 fingertips done, like, my heart rate went down significantly. My chest wasn't pounding nearly as bad. And by the time I got my ears done, that decreased. But because it was spagyric, this happened for almost 48 hours, where every 10 to 20 minutes, I'd have to go do that again, because my heart rate and blood pressure would all increase, and it would give me this crazy headache, and I felt dizzy, and it was not good. So after that, I was like, anybody who wants to take Korean red ginseng, there is a disclaimer.
Maybe do not.
Do not. I do not think that unless you have a diagnosis and somebody actually knowing not just Korean red ginseng, but Korean red ginseng in spagyric form.
It's appropriate for really damp, cold conditions.
Damp and cold condition, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what it's good for, especially with heart failure due to damp, cold, or severely low blood pressure.
Right.
That sort of thing. But again, you need a good diagnosis. You need somebody who's taking your pulses, looking at your tongue, asking about your diet, asking about your stuff through the seasons. Because even though it may be good for you in general, it may not be good for you during summer or late summer. Those are all of these things need to be taken into consideration. So Yeah, I learned a big lesson that day. Yeah, when we come back, though, it's about time for a break. When we come back, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about some of the products that you formulated using tonic herbs.
Happily.
And because you have some great ones and
awesome ones.
Yeah, awesome ones. I love them. I use them. So yeah, let's chat about those here. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Have you heard about our Spagyrics of the Month Club yet? As you probably know, we release 5 new spagyrics each month. These range in the style of spagyric pharmacopoeia from tinctures, elixirs, essences, glyci, stones, and much more. But now, you can get your hands on all 5 new releases each month at just a fraction of the normal cost by being part of our Spagyrics of the Month Club. It's the very best way to inexpensively build your home spagyric apothecary, and it's also the best way to support our research academy. Participating is easy. Sign up for the $75 a month subscription on our website, and we ship you a 4 ml size of all 5 newly released spagyrics that month. And shipping's even included for all orders within the USA. The best part is, you just sign up once and sit back and receive your new spagyrics delivered right to your door. It really doesn't get any easier. To get started or to learn more, go to phoenixaurelius.org and scroll down to the Spagyrics of the Month Club area on our homepage. As always, thanks so much for supporting our work. All right, so we're back from the break. Before we left, we were talking about my near fatal experience with Renshun. Now we wanted to turn our attention to some of the tonic herb formulas that are safe to take and that are probably generally suited for almost all constitutions.
Sure.
You've got 2 really cool blends. You've got Luminous and Fortify that are 2 of my favorite. They're ones that I stock in my own, home medicine cabinet and apothecary. Tell us a little bit more about those and kind of the inspiration for it.
Well, Fortify was created over, I'd say, a 5-year process and observing what people have challenges with regularly. There's a lot of people with immune deficiency conditions. They have autoimmune situations. They have Lyme disease or cancer concerns. And so Fortify I created specifically with about 7 medicinal mushrooms with astragalus and some harmonizers. Schizandra, longanberry, a little bit of licorice, and goji berries. It has a sweetness and
the
harmonizer.
Goji berry is delicious on its own.
It's very sweet and delicious.
Yeah.
And so, we use 7 medicinal mushrooms: reishi, lion's mane, chaga, turkey tail, cordyceps, tremella, and agaricus. Blase, royal sun, agaricus. They're all dual extracted, pure fruiting body medicinal mushrooms, highly potent, and those are combined with astragalus, double the amount of astragalus, with the appropriate amount of Schizandra, longan, licorice, and a little bit of goji.
Yeah, like you said, just to harmonize.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, every single one of those are powerful adaptogens that specifically they tend to have more effect on the immune system because of those who are using them, especially the medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah, they tonify immunity, which is unique because oftentimes with autoimmune conditions, you have overactive immune function, right? It's attacking parts of your body that you don't want it to.
Autoimmune.
Yep. So with the medicinal mushrooms, a lot of people are reticent to an extent because they're like, well, I don't know if the mushrooms will help me, but what they do is they're anti-mutagenic. They prevent the mutation of cells. They help actually get our killer T cells activated more quickly. Yeah. They're more they're online. They're acting more effectively, and they eliminate mutated cells more effectively than other medicinal mushrooms.
I know with this entire COVID nonsense, one of the biggest things was the CD8 plus T cells that they completely go out, they go out because CD4 plus T cells go out, and their functionality just stops in all of the people who actually had the disease known as COVID-19.
Right.
So what was interesting about that though is Jen was like, well, I'm just going to take lots of reishi and chaga. She's like, they can have their vaccines all they want. I have reishi. I have
reishi and chaya.
Exactly. She's like, they're 5,000 years plus medicinal experience of that. I'm going to stick with that.
Might as well.
I felt the exact same way. I went even a little deeper into it personally and tried to find out like all of the different functions, cytokine storms, are they going to defeat it and blah, 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 blah. So we went into it a little different, but your blend Fortify would be one of those things to keep in the apothecary cabinet or in a home apothecary in order to just generally protect against a lot of these different types of issues coming up, and to remain, healthy, basically, even when there isn't a particular issue. That's when they're best used, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, to tonify the body, to protect it, help provide a resilience, an adaptogenic effect, and resilience, overall physical and vital and spiritual resilience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah, that's I like that blend too because it harmonizes so well in coffee flavored beverages.
Oh yeah.
Over here we use Dandy Blend. For you see the way I drink Dandy Blend, it's every day, every morning instead of coffee kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ones that I feel goes really well with that. It's not going to alter the flavor in any undesirable way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very chocolatey and deep, earthen, rich flavor profiles.
Yep.
And we have Luminous too, which was, as you spoke to, which was formulated specifically to enhance cognitive function, help initiate a deeper state of focus and concentration. They've been used for thousands of years to support the yogic path, deeper meditation, deeper focus, more, better memory, better cognitive function.
And so is Luminous based not so much on TCM herbs or herbs in that pharmacopoeia and more,
I would say some of them are TCM. Some of them are more Vedic in nature. We use Bacopa. We use Gotukola. They're cognitive enhancers. They've been used to help initiate a deeper state of concentration and focus for yogic tradition. I was really inspired years ago by deep meditative practice and how tonic herbs can support that. So reishi, lion's mane, polygala, albizia. Those are the primaries: reishi, lion's mane, polygala, and albizia. Polygala is a really rare one. It's used as a will strengthener. It's used by Taoist martial artists to strengthen their focus and dedication so they can do very rigorous physical activity and unique physical exertion.
Yeah.
And still maintain vitality and vibrancy and support the life force of the individual.
Yeah, like when you see, when you take a look into Shaolin temples and you see these little kids, standing on their head, training their head to be super tough and strong and like almost calloused in a way.
Yeah.
That would be one of those herbs that would help strengthen the willpower to be able to do that. Now, oftentimes when you're actually in these things, you're there because your mom put you there. Mom and dad were like, "You're out.
You're going in. I'm gonna help you out.
I'm gonna help you. You needed calluses on your head." So
Polygala tenuifolia. It's also known as yuanshi.
Yuanshi.
Is its pinyin name.
Yeah.
But it's been revered by Taoist martial artists for 3,000 plus years as the will strengthening herb. It's used interchangeably with ginseng, specifically.
Really?
Yeah. It's revered similarly to ginseng.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I don't have any of that in my apothecary, actually. Some of these herbs actually are somewhat difficult to get
for sure.
To get your hands on. Like you're definitely not just going to be able to find stuff like some of these
not necessarily grown with semi-wild cultivation techniques. Yeah.
Strong potency.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there's a lot of adulteration when you're importing herbs.
A lot of monocropping.
There's
a big business of monocropping. Yeah.
Yeah. Which even organic monocropping is still an issue because the potency goes down so much. A huge portion of where plants gain their uniqueness from as an individual, not necessarily as a species, but as an individual, are from the competition with other things that are around and needing to learn to grow and adapt to those circumstances.
100%. They have to adapt to cold temperatures and different pests that will want to consume them, or high temperatures. You know, they have to maintain their life force, you know, while they're being consumed by other things. And so, that's one of the unique herbs that maintains its life force. Yeah,
polygala.
Yeah.
How cool. You mangeur. I love that. That's great, man. So you've also got an enormous apothecary, though, of other different herbs. Like how many tonic herbs are you carrying in the Cintamani Tonics apothecary at this time?
Between 60 to 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, you focus, one of the things, guys, that I love about Cintamani Tonics and just about DJ in general is his eye for quality and how much time and effort he puts into being able to find only the highest quality materials. So you vetted dozens of suppliers of herbs over the years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I will personally always purchase the highest potency, highest quality, which tends to be the highest price.
Go figure.
The most expensive. And I thought, well, if I want it myself, then other people will definitely want it eventually.
Yeah.
If not now, then at some point. So I'll focus on that only, because I want the purest, most potent, most efficacious extracts that exist.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and you know, I'm pretty much in the same boat. That's why I actually buy your products, is because I don't know anybody who sources or places more time and effort into the quality and the initial sourcing than you do. So every time that I get something, I'm just like, I know this is the best.
The best we can get now.
Yeah.
Until we grow it ourselves.
Which is a big thing. We've been like kind of aiming towards that for years.
And honestly, anyone who's listening, if you want to participate in the tonic herbal cultivation project, if you have land, 3 acres plus, you're in the Northwest or even anywhere in the U.S., talk to us. There's herbs that will grow in your environment, and we want to incentivize farmers to grow North American tonic herbs.
Yeah.
We need them. We need that volume. Otherwise, we're importing it from Asia.
Well, and I think that that's really important, because when people think about becoming farmers, traditionally it's corn, beans, soy.
Yeah.
You know.
The cash crops.
Yeah.
Tobacco,
exactly. Cannabis.
Poppies.
Yeah, poppies. Maybe not so much in the U.S.
Not in the U.S. Maybe overseas.
Yeah, definitely overseas.
Those are the cash crops.
But those are the types of things that typically people tend to think about. And so many of these other herbs are able to be grown in various regions within the United States that have a super high resale value. And there's dudes like you and myself and other people that I know about that will pay the premium standard for really well farmed, well crafted items that come from just, you know, local people. It's like maybe they only have 50 pounds of material per annum or whatever.
And that's when it's best. Yeah.
I would rather find 3 of those suppliers to get all of my needs met than I would to go through one huge major outlet. And you get more money as a farmer when you work with guys like us.
Sure.
Because we're willing to pay what it really costs. It's like fair trade. Whereas the bigger guys don't.
Yeah, most people don't understand the value of what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not at all. Most people, like, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle just trying to get them to, you know, be like, oh yeah, this forest harvested American ginseng, 12 years old. This is really good. Most people just don't even have a context for
why do I want that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas guys like us bend over backwards to meet really good, you know, be like, hey, what are what are the certifications on this? And like, how did you grow it, et cetera, et cetera. We want that data and we value that data.
Oh yeah.
And we value the product more.
Aged herbs.
Yeah.
Because usually, I mean, especially with ginseng, if you grow it for 3 to 4 years, they consider it to be a teenager.
Yeah.
It's shifty. It's
well, and they're still, the roots are actually pretty small still at that point.
They are.
You don't get that much medicine.
Yeah. And so as Phoenix was saying, as the roots grow, as they engage with their natural environment, they have to resist pests, high and cold temperatures. You know, they have to adapt to their environment. Animals. And as they adapt, they become stronger.
Yep.
And they produce adaptogenic compounds. And so 7, 8, 10, 12, 20-year-old roots will have more comprehensive beneficial compounds than a 2 to 3-year-old root.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. They mature. They become more cultivated.
Yep.
Legitimately, and they become more cultivated in their energetics. And so the impact and efficacy is different and more, it's more, I would say, fast. It's more of a fast impact. It's more of a...
more immediate.
Immediate. There you go. Yeah. Thank you.
Very volatile in alchemical terms, meaning that it gets into the system fast, but then it passes fast too.
Yep. Yeah.
And having those longer, more mature, more wizened types of
wizened. They're like wizened characters.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they end up having more of a fixed nature. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, all vegetable materials, I want it to be said, have a volatile nature in comparison to, say, animal or material, mineral and metallic materials. Metallic being the most fixed, but still, there's always a microcosm and a macrocosm to each different kingdom. So even though the vegetable kingdom is, in general, like if you take some today, you're going to need to take more tomorrow, kind of thing with most of the herbs. Mm-hmm. So they have a volatile effect, but the ones that are older and more mature, even when they're like perennial things like goji berry, right? If you get it off of a 1-year-old bush, that's great.
Very different than 8 to 10 year, 20 year,
50 year, exactly.
Old bush. Yeah.
We had at our old house on Jackson Avenue, here in Ogden, we had these 50-year-old bushes that spread out throughout the entire course of our neighbor's back fence.
Oh wow!
And our back fence, and they were like 15 feet high. They were growing so large, and it must have been 60 or 70 feet wide. Mm-hmm. Just this huge patch of them. Those were still the best goji berries I'd ever had.
Well, if you can support an herb to take over a natural environment and just proliferate itself, there's very few things that are more effective.
Yeah.
And if you let it go for a year to 5 to 8 years, it's in its natural habitat, just doing its thing. We want plants to do what it naturally does in nature. And we want it to be potent, and we want it to complete its life cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as it does, the potency enhances, and therefore the efficacy in consumption is increased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are ways to farm that are going to be able to replicate the same potency that you would get out of wild crafted herbs, actually.
Yeah.
It's just replicating similar conditions.
Yep.
So that,
and all of you that are interested in farming, if you have land, I mean, we want to support local farmers to create tonic herbal operations. We need the raw material here in America. We have a high demand for it. There's immense amounts of money to be made. Not that that's the focus, but it supports the work as we do it.
Yeah. And it's not, it's not like growing cannabis.
No, cannabis is very easy.
Cannabis is the easiest because for the amount of plant material, you get more than anything else that I'm aware of.
With the highest value.
With the highest value. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I meant. You get more money per square footage than you do just about anything else. But, when you're talking about getting a dried material, sometimes, $40, $50, $60 for a 500-gram pack. That's pricey. Those are good herbs, though. Though that's kind of what you're looking at in a lot of cases. Some things that are very prolific, there's no way you're going to make that amount. Yeah. But a lot of these tonic herbs are actually much more rare, and they're getting harder and harder to source.
Well, the supply chain is highly disrupted.
Yeah.
Through China and Asia. Oftentimes, a lot of these smaller companies, they're family run. They have a lineage. They've been doing it for
generations,
50 to 100 years, and they have land. They own land. They have the herbs. They have the families, and they're like, well, COVID happened. Who knows? Whatever. We'll take care of our family first and foremost. We're not going to produce any kind of volume. And that's what's happened. The supply chains have been seriously disrupted. We don't have as much volume of pure, lovingly grown tonic herbs, which means if we want, we can begin to do that here in the States, which is what for 2 years we've been encouraging farmers and landowners to create operations. We will buy it all.
Yeah.
Whatever you can produce, we will buy it. We can even invest up front if people want. But it's more about getting the raw material accessible to the people who need it and then finding the optimal way to extract it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that so much of this research happened in very clinical environments on commercial scale. There are undoubtedly better ways at smaller scale to be able to extract the herbs to get even better potency and even better effects.
Oh, yeah.
And far better ways of growing the herbs, because most of these clinical things, they're not taking a look into the sourcing. To them, 1 equals 1, meaning that I can buy it from this Joe Schmo or this Joe Schmo or this commercial farm, and it's all going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, and they're all just letting it do its natural thing in the wild, which is optimal. But it takes time.
Yeah.
It's not a slow process.
Not a fast process. It is a slow process. That's a Scotch speaking.
Should we edit that?
So yeah, man, I think that there's some really important aspects to people today thinking, because people have 1 acre. And on 1 acre, you can actually grow a good amount of certain things, like astragalus, for instance.
Which is tough to get because it's considered a toxin by the FDA.
Yeah, we started growing it out here. I planted a ton of seeds. It's very slow growing, not easy to sprout in my location.
No.
We're also growing ashwagandha over here. Don't have many plants, but, they produce the berries. That's how they end up like getting seeds. You get it from the little ashwagandha berries. So hopefully we'll be getting more of those and naturalizing our own seeds, because that's what I like to do, grow 1 or 2 of a certain plant from seed, and then wait until it gets domesticated so that its genetics can breed that next year and get that second generation that's native now to this area, and then do it again. That way the epigenetic factors actually change. And what's cool about that is we're bound to see big differences actually between, say, the ashwagandha that comes from my yard in 5 years from now versus ashwagandha that we're going to get from India.
Yeah.
It's going to be more or less similar in its medicinal properties, but the potency, the taste, the profiles, all of those things that come through is going to be different. Just like growing grapes in a different area changes the terroir.
And if we focus on anything, probably soft-fed muesli.
Yeah. Soft-fed muesli. And also jatamansi, right?
Big time. Indian spikenard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of, that extract was a funky flavor.
Big time. It was super incense.
Yeah.
Incense-like.
Yeah, it totally was. Yeah, there's a lot of herbs that are actually like that. I don't know if you have ever used it for medicine or for seasoning or anything else, but the plant called devil's dung, asafoetida?
Yeah. Devil's dung.
Devil's dung.
I haven't heard it called that.
That's its common English name.
Wow.
Devil's dung. Asafoetida it's the second half of its Latin name,
Fair enough.
But that one is one that is highly, highly, highly prized to grow because of its uses in perfumery. You know what's interesting about perfumery? We learned this from Kim Olson, who specialized a lot in perfumery. And, you know, she and I were working together for a period of time here in the lab, the Research Academy in early 2020. But she let us know that Mandy Aftel, a very famous perfumer, made a strong case that the reason why we like the smell of certain perfumes and what we're attracted to by way of smell always has some element of human excrement to it. It's just like diluted though.
Wow.
But if perfumes don't have that smell of like human excrement or grossness to it,
you don't feel drawn.
You're not drawn to it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it reminds me of good plants and compost. If the soil is shitty, with no pun intended, then nothing grows very well and it doesn't have a good scent. If the soil is shitty, by way of having compost manure on it,
you're good to go.
Now you're good to go. Yeah. And what's funny about that too is the terpene content and other things go way up through the roof the more that you have, you know, dung and manure in your soil composition. So
makes sense.
Yeah. In a weird way.
In
right?
a weird way. Get the shit.
Yeah, get the shit, but homeopathically. Everything's good in the right dose, apparently, is what that goes to teach us. Well, that's really rad, man. Now, you've got a couple of other different single herb products. I know that I'm a super huge fan. Of course, I love American ginseng.
Sure.
Your American ginseng extract is one of the best I've ever tried.
Well, it's only 7 to 10 year aged roots. That's
only.
Only. Well, so from my education and my training, I'm not willing to purvey American ginseng that's 2 to 4 years old.
Yeah.
It's too immature. It's still a teenager.
Well, I don't think it has those Shen balancing effects. That's the biggest thing for me.
Well, that's what ginseng brings, is like deep kidney, liver replenishment with Shen nutrifying properties.
Yeah.
And if it's 7, 8, 10, 12, 20 years old, it will have more of a balanced energetic. So we only purvey 7 to 10 year aged ginseng. Powdered extract with, it's about a 10 to 1 extract. So 10 times the potency of regular herb powder.
Which is really crazy if you think about it, because for every 100 grams that you're producing,
that's a kilo. I mean, that's 1,000 grams.
Yeah, exactly. It's 1,000 grams that actually had to go into it. It just blows me away how much quantity of herb is actually being used to make these dual extracts.
And it's fully water soluble.
Which is amazing, because with a dual extract, some of it shouldn't be water soluble in theory, but it ends up actually being water soluble. Yeah.
The ginseng is a unique one.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got a couple of others that do that too. And I would say most of them are like at least 90 to 95% fully water soluble. There's very little biomass material that is down at the bottom of a cup after dissolving it and drinking it down.
Well, if it has leftover biomass, I bail. I'm not into it.
It's true.
Yeah. There's so many. We have probably 65, 70 different powdered extracts. 10 to 1 to 15 to 1 concentration. Medicinal mushrooms, tonic roots, tonic berries, tonic herbs.
Oh, dude, your mulberry. Purple mulberry.
Purple mulberry. It's like candy.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, and the tremella. Okay, so here's a funny story. DJ actually takes entire spoonfuls of these herbs sometimes.
Like 20 tablespoons.
I've never seen anybody just like dip a spoon into the jar and go at it. But Deej does.
Tremella plus mulberry.
Yeah.
That's the combo.
It really is, dude. And tremella on its own is kind of marshmallowy.
Very marshmallowy.
Now, when you put it in your mouth, the mouth feel is not going to be like a marshmallow. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about the taste that comes through. The taste is very marshmallowy. The mouthfeel that comes through is a powder that actually kind of turns, I would consider it, once it interacts with the saliva a bit, it almost turns like thin, hardened caramel.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Like it has that kind of crunchy nature to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. Altogether, a very pleasant experience.
Oh, yeah.
If I could afford it, I think I'd just go down on that all the time, and I'd love it.
Yeah, I lose so much money from eating spoonfuls of tremella. I don't lose it, but you know.
Yeah, key rule of most drug dealing businesses is don't consume your own product.
And I do.
Yeah, Deej doesn't care. He's like, they're not drugs, they're tonics. But yeah, he got me to do that. I was pleasantly surprised with that. Same thing with the purple mulberry. Oh my God, it's amazing. I mix a purple mulberry, goji berry, and longan together in order to create a double ferment on my juns and kefirs, actually. I flavor them like that. So after the first...
Doing it right.
Yeah. First aerobic ferment, pull it out. Well, even while it's just still a little sweet, that's the key. While it's still a little sweet, add your tonic herbs to it, seal it up, and different times of the year you're going to have to either burp it or not burp it, keep it there for a day or 3 days, different types of, there's always different rhythms like that. But we'll do a second anaerobic fermentation of these things. They're among the best in color because they're water soluble. They dissolve completely into the jun or the kefir.
It's just easy to work with.
It's so easy.
Yeah,
easy to store, easy to travel. If you're in the Pacific Northwest or in the Southwest, you'll probably want a desiccator pack.
Yeah, the only negative impact on the extracts is sunlight, direct sunlight,
and moisture,
or moisture content. Even high heat's not a problem because it was made with high heat.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least boiling temp.
For sure.
At least boiling temp.
210,
so if it's not
220,
so if it's not 100 degrees Celsius out,
you're good.
You're good. Yeah. I remember when we would source, especially the ginger and stuff from you. We lived in Portland. I had to keep desiccator packs in it in order to retain the quantity. But I didn't have good apothecary jars at that time either.
That was a Vedic version, the ginseng.
Yeah.
Vedic version.
Or ginger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not ginseng, ginger. But that one, that you were getting those from a different supplier that you no longer use right now, right?
Well, we could. They just have minimal volume availability.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's cool. That really speaks to your sourcing because you really only get things that that your clients are going to be able to continue to purchase. And you only, I think, you have access to hundreds of herbs from what I understand.
250.
Yeah. But you only get the ones that are really good, that are really standardized, certified, that are high quality. And you try all of these yourself, don't you?
Yeah, we do when we lab test them.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to provide herbs to people that are filled with toxicity.
Yeah.
And contaminants. So, no, it's not an option.
No. Yeah. That's not cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll just continue on with this conversation. Don't know where it's going to go from here, but we'll figure it out when we get back. Stay tuned.
Perhaps you've heard Phoenix speak about alchemy and spagyria, and you yourself want to start practicing? Phoenix has been engaged in more than 15 years of consistent split tests in order to find the most practical and standardized methods to create the highest quality items of spagyric pharmacopoeia possible. He provides the most detailed multimedia courses in existence, walking you through every aspect of spagyria, including beginning theory, setting up your lab, proper technique, important details on how to make a spagyric like a pro, tips for advanced practice, alchemical and hermetic applications, astrological theory, and so much more. In any of his online courses, you will be thoroughly guided through making your own items of spagyric pharmacopoeia, including spagyric tinctures, spagyric elixirs, spagyric essences, spagyric stones, and so much more. You will be able to set up your own laboratory in your home or business and craft up your very own alchemical apothecary in no time flat. To learn more about our online courses, simply visit www.phoenixaurelius.org/online courses and begin your spagyric journey today. And as an Alchemi-Culture podcast listener, you get to save 15% off the tuition of any course by entering the coupon code TEACHME15 at checkout. Again, that is coupon code TEACHME15, which will save you a whole 15% off any of Phoenix's online courses. As always, all proceeds go towards supporting this podcast and furthering our research.
Thanks for tuning into this Alchemi-Culture episode. We're back with DJ Ankenbrandt. We've been talking about all sorts of stuff. Deej, one of the things that I thought would be really cool to kind of go into is Dendrobium. Now, that's something that at the present moment is out of stock on your website, but you will be getting some more sometime soon.
We have some in stock. We just, usually when it's down to a kilo of volume, we take it off the website because we use it for our custom formulated clients.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And the people who are pre-existing clients of ours. And so we do not offer it to everyone, only those who know about it and want it.
Fair enough. Now, maybe you could tell us a little bit more in your own words why you feel that Dendrobium is such an awesome herb.
Well, it's an amazing plant. It's an orchid, and they use the orchid stem, Dendrobium nobile, and the orchid stem is it's traditional and classical in Chinese medicine, and it's used to tonify yin of the lungs and the kidneys. And it's a yin nourishing herb. It's moisturizing.
And stomach too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Stomach, absolutely. It's comprehensive in its effects, and I love it because usually it's harvested deep in the wild. It's hard to cultivate, and it's really soothing and calming and yin tonifying and life-giving. So for people who have degenerative and depletion issues, it's really effective.
That's rad, man.
Yeah.
Are there any other products that you have that are, even semi-rare or just even if they're not rare that you find to be extremely useful? Like Jiaogulan, for instance?
For sure. Jiaogulan, Gynostema pentaphyllum. It's an amazing herb. It's known as the poor man's ginseng. Which
is an unfair epithet.
It is.
It shouldn't be just the poor man's ginseng because it's different altogether in its actions a little bit, and it's actually, in my opinion, it's safer and better to use regularly than ginseng.
Well, it has a higher polysaccharide content than any herb I've ever known about. Say ginseng, for instance, or reishi. They have between 30 to 40 polysaccharides. Jiaogulan has about 70 to 80 different various polysaccharides that are of benefit to the body. And it's superior in that sense. And one of the most adaptogenic and comprehensive tonifying herbs that I know about.
Yeah, I love that one. We've got, so as most people know, we actually started working on a tremendous amount of traditional Chinese medicine herbs, individuals, to be able to blend into items of Chinese pharmacopoeia at length. So we work on all of the herbs spagyrically individually, and then we start to combine them. So we've got, and even, I think years ago I started working on Gynostema because during the time that I was at Niyama in Portland, I was formulating Spark that actually had Gynostema in it. Yeah. And that's one of those crossover herbs that actually helps a lot with Jing and also gives a person an energy boost, which is what they're looking for out of most like sea burners,
It's highly adaptogenic.
Yeah.
Highly. I mean, they consider it to be a longevity tonic. So I guess they were doing research on the centenarian populations within China and Japan.
People who are living more than 100 years.
More than 100 years. And they found that these people drank what they called magical grass, which is Gynostema pentaphyllum. And they lived significantly longer because of its benefits. And it was their daily tea.
Man, if they were in the United States and they were drinking magic grass, I don't think people would would have thought that that's what they were drinking.
No.
You're like, you're from California, bruh?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bruh. Oh, man. I used to have a friend whose name shall remain anonymous for now. But we'd ask him, hey, what are you doing today, man? He's like, maca, mucuna, cordyceps. It's like, what? That's what you're doing?
Cordyceps, bruh.
Cordyceps, bruh. See third eye trippy caterpillar vision, bruh. Oh, man. It just cracks us up. So, yeah, man, on the site right now, as I'm scrolling through, you have gynostemma in stock. You have Schizandra in stock, which we talked about.
And Safed Muesli.
Safed Muesli. Talk about that one, because that one's not actually used in TCM as far as I understand. That's an Ayurvedic and Siddhi tonic herb.
Yes, indeed. It's Chlorophytum bordivilanium. And it's seen as the 6th most important herb to the Medicinal Plant Board of India.
Really?
Yeah, it's seen as an ancient herb that's been used for long periods of time. And muesli it's getting notoriety and touted as a muscle building tonic and as an aphrodisiac. They market it as an aphrodisiac, but it's not just that. It's highly revitalizing to the body, tonifying to many components of our physicality, and it enhances vitality and vibrancy and resilience and stamina. So that's why they give it the aphrodisiac.
Yeah, anything that enhances stamina, just in general.
And endurance.
Yeah. I mean, you can see throughout history, like even in my Native American ethnobotany books that we have over here, anything that is good for energy or stamina is always considered an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, Safed Muesli, it's an amazing herb. It's actually pregnant women use it pre and postpartum. They use it to replenish their vital essence pre and postpartum in India.
Wow.
It's a very unique herb. It's not commonly known about, and it's hard to get. It's hard as fuck to get.
Really?
Yeah, I've had a hard time getting it.
Wow.
Well, a lot of the purveyors that we were working with when COVID happened, I mean, they were small family-run operations, so I think they went just, focusing on their family, focusing on their homestead, and were not willing to produce any kind of volume.
That makes sense.
Anymore. Yeah.
Well, when there's not buyers, or when it's difficult to ship out, like it puts a huge crimp in the business.
Yeah.
So also I'm seeing Cistanch root here. Go ahead and talk about that a little bit, because that's one that is really good for yang vitality, right?
Big time, yeah. So in China, it's used generally for men who are, I'd say, 45 to 65, oftentimes for erectile dysfunction. And it's used to replenish the vital Jing essence in the reproductive system. It's a kidney yang tonic, Cistanch. And for probably 3,000 to 5,000 years, it's been used for erectile dysfunction and for lack of vitality in the male physicality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really important. So if somebody has kidney yin deficiency already, would you advise staying away from that particular herb or using it delicately?
It depends on if they're a female or a male. Usually females benefit more from Hoshowu and Rehmannia, but if they have compromised digestion, Rehmannia is not indicated.
Not so good.
Yeah, not so good. Cistanch is generally a male tonic. It's a male vitalizing, regenerative tonic, and it's used to replenish the vital essence, the reproductive, efficacy, and help guys get their boners back.
Yeah, exactly. The natural V.
Get that natural V.
Yeah.
The ladies like it.
They love that, man. That's what that's the only thing they love, are erections caused by Cistanch. Can that go as a quote? Phoenix Aurelius. The ladies only love erections caused by Cistanch. Get yourself some.
But it's not always a staunch. I mean, there's other things. Safed muesli's in that category. Shilajit for sure.
Shilajit, absolutely.
Big time.
And that works for both male and female. I think it's pretty yin and yang neutral, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There's only a few different types of neutral herbs within the entire corpus of Chinese medicine that don't have an effect either on yin or yang, which is really important. Shilajit actually is more, again, Vedic, and so it's included a lot in Ayurveda. It's included a lot in Siddhi medicine before it. And it's also included in Russian folk medicine under the name Mumio.
Big time, dude, big time. We were doing a farmer's market probably 2 years ago, and a woman came through and she was like, wow, what is this? It's a mineral resin? It's Shilajit. I've never heard that. And I was like, well, it's known as Mumio. In other cultures, she said, oh my gosh, Mumio, I know. And she was in Russia, and her brother had an infection with his leg, and he was dying. And they went up into the mountains, harvested Shilajit resin, Mumio resin, brought it down, applied it topically, and it healed his leg.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very unique moment.
We talked about that actually slightly, but like on the last podcast we had you on. But that just absolutely confuses me, because like to be able to heal external things so well, especially bones and joints, by applying it externally, that's amazing to me.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, the antimicrobial effect is quite unique.
Dude, I don't know about you, but like you would have to be in a pretty special circumstance to apply that externally in your social environment.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's not that it wouldn't be effective.
You smell like earth.
Yeah.
A bunch of...
what's that aroma? Have you bathed recently? Are you wiping?
Are you wiping? I hope you are.
Seriously, it can get pretty stinky. Shilajit can. So to apply it externally, but when it comes to healing bones and stuff like that, who cares? Like,
I know of nothing better. Personally, I mean, eucomia is in that category. It's the number one bone, tendon, joint, and ligament strengthening herb in the Chinese system. Eucomia, Eulmodes, and then Shilajit. Those two combined, I know of nothing better for remineralizing, strengthening, tonifying, anything structurally related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So everybody can go to your website, ChintamaniTonics.com. Cintamani again, Cintamani.
It's an onomatopoeia.
It is. Cintamani Tonics. And that first cha is actually just a C. Cintamani is a Tibetan term.
It's a Tibetan term. It's actually amazing. Years ago, it was probably 13 years ago, I learned about Cintamani as a term and as a concept, and I thought, wow, what a great name for a tea house or a tonic herbal offering. So in Tibetan culture, there's this deity named Zambala, Dzambala, Zambala. And Zambala is kind of seen as the gift giver of Tibet. He's depicted as having this magic mongoose in one hand and a staff in the other. And so what he represents is this encouraging force in the universe. If you take a step in the right direction that's of benefit to yourself and of all beings, he will wildly wave his pom-pom and he'll celebrate your forward movement. He'll celebrate your success. And then he'll squeeze the mongoose and it will spit out a Cintamani stone. Cintamani stones traditionally and historically are seen as the wish-fulfilling jewel. It will fulfill your wish or dream if it is connected to what's of benefit to all beings, exclusively. And so Zambala is this magical creature and magical being, and the Cintamani stone is revered in Tibetan and even Indian culture. And so I thought, what a cool name for an offering of herbs and essences to help people fulfill their liberating dream, the liberating goals. And it just fit. And so it stuck. And 11 years later, here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So along with the tonic herbs that you have in the apothecary on your website, you also offer herbal consultations.
Sure.
Right? And what type of people would want to come and have herbal consultations with you.
Most of them are women over 60.
Yeah.
Maybe over
those,
50.
Those
over
are
60.
a large majority of my clients too.
Well, oftentimes ladies who they reach a certain point in their life cycle and they're like, wow, I didn't learn as much as I would have wanted, and I want to focus on my health, my longevity. I want to live a long, healthy life, and let me begin to integrate some different things. And so women with menopausal challenges were some of the first that came to me, and we created some formulas that supported them in balancing their hormones, overall. And now we work with many people, all ages, all walks of life, but most of them are over 55.
Yeah.
Dealing with menopause, dealing with the challenges of being a lady at that time.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that come with that, man. There's more hormonal changes that happen during that time than happen during puberty, I think.
Sure. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's more imbalancing for those women.
Yeah.
They have serious hot flashes. They feel overly emotional.
Do you think that that's actually as a result of deficient heat or like yin deficiency that causes yang excess?
Well, most people are eating shit food and
That's
drinking
true.
shit water all the time. I mean, all of us. Even if we go out to eat, we're eating poison food.
Yep.
And I love to go out to eat. So I love people serving me food.
Yeah, there's very few restaurants. Very few. I know in Ogden we have two. We have Ogden River
places.
Brewery, Hearth on 25th Street. And if you're into the vegan vibe, Cuppa, those are our three local places that a person can actually go to in order to be assured that they have good food, not cooked with toxic ingredients.
It takes a lot of work and time and even money to ensure you're eating clean food and drinking clean water. That's like one of the primary base points for having vibrant health.
Yeah.
So for me, if a client comes to me and they're like, hey, I've got all these challenges, I'm like, well, start with clean food.
Yeah.
Start with clean water.
Dietary overhaul.
Yeah. If it doesn't shift, then we can work with different herbs and supplements that can help bring you to a new place of vibrancy. But if you're eating poison food and drinking poison water, and I'm serving you all these herbs, it's kind of a waste.
It really is. You're wasting time and money.
Yeah. So I can give people herbs all day long. It's not a silver bullet unless they change their dietary habits and lifestyle. That's
always where it starts.
Yeah.
That's about probably 9/10 of the journey for most of the clients that I work with is sure, IDF work, fantastic. Spagyrics, fantastic. Tonic Herbalism, fantastic. But if you aren't willing to make the core lifestyle changes by way of diet, lifestyle, habits, sorry, you're wasting your time and mine.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, that's cool, Deej. Is there anything else that you've got coming up or going on in the near future that you want anybody to know about?
Well, yeah, we're creating I would say it's a female reproductive tonic.
Ooh, brilliant.
Yeah. There's a lot of ladies that have tons of different challenges, and it's common for ladies to want to clear stagnancy around the midsection.
Yeah.
It's common. Guys, they'll get a little bulged out gut. Ladies
guilty of that myself.
Ladies will get, their hips will move out to the side. And so there's things like poria, fuling.
Yeah, fuling dries up dampness.
And in combination with white atraculodes, or atraculodes, as some people say, and white
peony. Yeah.
Baishu.
Pearl, maybe.
Yeah, pearl for sure. Baishu, Baishao, pearl. Those can help clear stagnancy and dampness from the midsection. And so poria, white atraculodes, white peony is an ancient combination for clearing and releasing water retention around the midsection. And so as you take those herbs and you clear the water moisture in the midsection,
clear out that dampness,
it will create a greater formed figure. And actually there's ladies in Chinese history who only consumed poria, fuling, exclusively as a food.
Yeah.
As a supplement.
We include it in almost all of our meats, especially like ground meat.
Nice.
We always include it in there. It increases the texture, the chewiness of the meat.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that way.
Mm-hmm.
Jen got us started doing that.
Yeah, traditionally it comes in these little, they look like cinnamon sticks. Honestly, they're little poria shavings. And it's an amazing herb to help tonify the feminine figure.
That's cool. I'm really excited for that product to come out. Yeah. Not necessarily because, I'm excited for its feminine qualities, but every single one of those herbs are herbs that I myself would take even as a male, especially people who have weight challenges and other things like that. That's going to help to dry up dampness. In China, they say for somebody who's fat, they say they're drowning in damp phlegm.
Mm-hmm.
Drowning in phlegm.
Poria, white atractylodes, white peony, maybe some Hosho Wu, and Schizandra.
Oh, yeah.
High amounts of Schizandra because it's tonifying, cleansing, and it's fluid replenishing.
Nourishing, too.
Deeply nourishing, yeah. It replenishes all the fluids in the body.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, Deej, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, you can reach him at his website, ChintamaniTonics.com. He offers consultations, has an awesome apothecary. As you can tell by this interview, he is massively knowledgeable about tons and tons of herbs. If you're ever looking for good quantities of herbs, you even take on a few white labelers, don't you?
We have a few. Yeah. We do wholesale distribution primarily. Custom formulation and wholesale distribution. We have a retail offering.
Sure.
It's more for the people who want to do the work on their own.
Yeah. So any of you who are interested in tonic herbs or starting your own tonic herb business, I strongly suggest getting a consultation with Deej, seeing if the product or products that he has that you are interested in are up your alley. And if that's something that you really want to get into, definitely contact him. And I think that's just about it. Anything else that you want to mention?
We would be honored to work with you.
Yep, absolutely. There it is.
Always.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this Alchemi-Culture episode. If you learned something, go ahead and put in the comments what it is that you learned. I know that we cover a wide variety of different things. If you are interested in learning more about traditional Chinese medicine or other topics like that, go ahead and let us know. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, be sure to share this with your friends. Give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, let them know about this. The more exposure that we get, obviously the bigger listener base that we get, and the more types of content we're able to bring you. It's kind of difficult in a certain regard from a logistical perspective to get really big names, which we have invited some very big names onto our podcast to give some very deep level information. But if they don't see that there's a certain amount of subscribers to the channel or other things like that, it can be difficult to influence them to come on. And so, you getting the word out will help us continue to get the very best, highest quality types of interviews and really deep, useful information that you can use, life-changing stuff. So be sure to like us and share it with your friends. That will help us out. In the meantime, keep on keeping on. You guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Phoenix Aurelius. Have a good one. And Deej, thanks for joining.
It's the deepest pleasure of all time.